This is a recording of our presentation to the PPA Data Symposium. Datastake is an information management system to transform the way we consider data in resource-rich countries. We organize upstream supply chain information so that it's more valuable. And instead of capturing that value ourselves, like traditional systems, we help users, the primary sources of information, monetize it. By turning data into a tradable resource, we have created a way to incentivize transparency in resource-rich countries. That is quite significant and useful in countries where traditional governance structures have failed and Google Maps doesn't even know the name of certain villages. Weak governance countries are considered high risk mostly because risk cannot even be measured. Data is hard to collect due to challenging logistics and security conditions. It takes some effort to visit most mine sites. Data is expensive. It typically involves the commissioning of international experts to visit communities. And despite those costly efforts, data is unreliable. There is no efficient triangulation mechanism established locally. Data also has a short shelf life. Local contexts are volatile. So by the time an expert is back from the field, risk has changed. Or by the time a report is published, it's outdated. So it's hard to get access to good data in resource-rich countries. And that's a problem because without information, it's hard to monitor threats. Data is what's required by due diligence compliance frameworks. It's also what investors need to identify opportunities, manage risk. Without it, banks cannot even open an account for mining cooperatives, for example. Even more importantly, development programs shoot in the dark. How can I claim that I'm making an impact if I cannot even measure it reliably? And that's a pity because information is everywhere. Internet use is widespread across Africa, for instance. Many of us are part of messy WhatsApp groups with vocal civil society actors. But because of the disorganized nature of such reporting, those local voices tend to be ignored. Various donors and companies operate in silos. For many businesses, it is more lucrative to hide than to make any compliance effort. And because nobody can really materialize the value of the information they hold, we see huge overlaps between data collected by private databases, systems, certification programs. There are as many ways to analyze impact as there are analysts, but data can be the common denominator to all models. It took us more than 10 years to figure it all out. Now we're excited that we finally decided to build a website. Please have a look. It's on datastake.io. So how did we turn data into a commodity? And how does that even make sense? Well, first, we built useful software for local stakeholders. With support from the European Partnership for Responsible Minerals, EPRM, we first built CAD, which stands for Consolidated Autonomous Due Diligence. CAD is an application for upstream supply chain participants to organize their own information on mine sites and the supply chain in a very structured way so that it can document their buyers' compliance with the OECD guidance. We really went granular. Every step of the guidance is turned into information requirements. Even if you have not read the guidance, following application steps tells cooperatives or exporters what they need to establish risk management systems and provably mitigate risk. That enables companies to be autonomous and save on due diligence program costs or certification costs. To be consolidated, though, due diligence needed other sources of information. That's where the support from USAID was crucial. As part of the Zahabu Safi or Clean Gold project in DRC, we were able to build another application which is for local NGOs and civil society to monitor and manage risk at mine sites and along the supply chain. This means that structured analytical data stays with local organization when the donor steps out. It means that when new funding is available, that new project does not start from a blank sheet of paper. With PME, USAID can receive information on the same mine site from multiple sources. so you don't have to rely on one consultant to measure impact. You can instead consult 5 or 6 locally based organizations. And that's pretty neat. One of our users received an innovation prize from ILO, the International Labour Organization, and is now implementing mine-site risk management in a way I never could have as a foreign-based consultant. Both CAD and PME are, of course, free to access. Any one of you can access it from our website, although USAID is unlikely to accept your information if you are not provably located in an implementation country. And then we realized we could not come up with all the ideas on how to generate local data. So we are working with others to build their own application on top of the Datastake ecosystem. The Alliance for Responsible Mining is building a standard digital tool to assess artisanal and small-scale mining operations against craft, fair mined, and forest smart mining standards. ARM owns the application, but the application leverages Datastake features. So inputs can be consolidated from other sources, outputs can be shared with other clients on the platform by ARM. And then our mind was blown when Trust Merchant Bank approached us. The very granular data generated in CAD and PME applications can be used by the bank to assess and onboard ASM cooperatives as clients. TMB is inventing crowdsourced KYC, which is a groundbreaking alternative in countries where government registries and identity systems cannot necessarily be trusted. So we build useful applications for multiple types of stakeholders so that they all compile data, operate more efficiently, and attract interest from funding partners. But what's really great is that because all these applications build on the same data architecture, any user of any application can consolidate data from other users of any application. And we are really starting to see what looks like a data marketplace. Don't pay too much attention to this complex drawing. Basically, the goal is to help any existing data holder or application connect with more clients, and any client for data to consolidate it from as many sources as possible. Data reliability in Datastake is a function of the number of sources one gets on the same data point. Every user maintains full control over their data, and this will be handled through what we call the data wallet. We are live, obviously. Most of our beta users are in Congo, where we have an expanding community. Madagascar is starting to heat up. In fact, I was there recently to train local consultants on data management as part of a study on child labor in mica mining. Some gold due diligence activities are ongoing in Zimbabwe, but we have not had a chance to fully capacitate local actors there. So let's consider a humanitarian program. With Datastake, it can now seamlessly consolidate information from civil society actors using the PME application. Another program may start working with one of the local organizations. That organization's work continues to leverage all knowledge accumulated through previous works. Even when those other projects end. Now, on due diligence, as a buyer of gold, for example, you are receiving information from your supplier and their supplier in standardized OECD-aligned fashion. However, that's not enough. Where is your evidence that your suppliers are being honest about the local context? Before you send an auditor, consider inviting other local information sources to your due diligence efforts. They are right there, funded by development partners to work locally on gender equality or sanitation programs. They hold information on your supply chain as well. If they agree to share their data with you, your due diligence is now consolidated from multiple independent sources. Last illustration of what we are doing now, you're a bank looking to support the ASM sector, the artisanal mining sector. That's not an easy thing to do if you aim to comply with international anti-money laundering regulation. Even though your potential clients organize their data professionally, you face a risk that the information they provide on themselves is not sufficient or even false. But other information sources have gathered normalized data on your counterparty as part of their own activities. If you get them to share that knowledge with you, suddenly information on your client gets triangulated. When it's fully granular, the value chain of information expands. The same data can have more uses, and that obviously includes impact. We are particularly excited with crowdsourcing SDG indicators from communities themselves. SDG data is usually compiled at country level, which means that accountability is limited. No company gets ESG value from financing impact at country level. Localized SDG impact reporting means that participating investors or buyers can claim and demonstrate their contribution to sustainable development. It used to be that downstream companies, consumer-facing companies would struggle with meaningful upstream engagement. Now they have many options. They can just buy data to incentivize transparency locally. They can fund NGO work and get feedback from the community. And of course, they can connect their fancy tracking systems to consolidated assessment of mine sites to avoid the garbage in, garbage out problem related to traceability. We think that crowdsourcing local insight and incentivizing transparency will serve many more purposes. I don't need to delve into this right here. Lastly, just when you thought these crypto things were all a scam, well, maybe they are, but decentralizing a data marketplace means that Datastake itself will not be able to tamper with users' data. Value allocation will be transparent. We will have truly decolonized monitoring and evaluation when Datastake is decentralized. Decentralization will basically increase trust in this platform. That's why we hang out in that ecosystem, and any donation to the Datastake wallet is used to pay local users for their data. Yeah, so you can hold us accountable for that commitment as those transactions are publicly available on the blockchain. Of course, our first users in countries of origin are quite excited with the idea of generating extra money for sharing what they see. You can come and verify for yourself, engage with them in our community forum on Discord. We look forward to working with all of you on projects that will put local actors center stage. Measuring impact is impossible without them. Thank you.